In case you've been living under a rock since the late COVID period, Severance is a sci-fi series that follows the lives of 4 severed employees at a biotech company called Lumen Industries. Undergoing the severance procedure means that their mind is divided into 2 distinct personalities, an innie who is only conscious at Lumen, and an outie who lives the severed person's life outside of work. As the series progresses, the layers of secrecy around Lumen begin to peel back, revealing its strange and sinister inner workings. Created by Dan Erickson and mostly directed by Ben Stiller, Severance is hard to classify. Is it a satire of the cult-like environment at multinational corporations, or an exploration of the human cost of technological advancement? Perhaps a critique of late-stage capitalism itself? Maybe it's all of the above. It's also a great example of top-notch production design that plays an indispensable role in a show's visual storytelling. While there's a whole separate video that could be made about the interior design of the Lumen buildings, today I'll focus on what I find to be one of the show's most striking and iconic visual elements: the artwork. Big shoutouts to production designer Jeremy Hindle, prop master Catherine Miller, set decorator David Schlesinger, painter Danny Avils, and all of the other incredibly talented people who worked on this. Now, before I proceed, please note that this video does have spoilers for season 1 and 2 of Severance, so in case you haven't watched the show, please do so before returning to this video. With that said, let's get into it. The most prominent type of artwork the audience encounters in Severance is the Lumen art that frequently appears on the severed floor. In the first season, we learned that the company's optics and design department stores, maintains, and rotates these pieces. These paintings share some common characteristics that make them highly effective as works of propaganda art. For instance, there is a clear dichotomy of good and evil seen in many of these works, with Kier, the founder of Lumen, presented as a figure of objective moral good, fighting against Lumen's ideas of objective immorality. Perhaps no other work signifies this as concretely as one of the earliest works we see in the show, Kier taming the 4 tempers. This Renaissance-style painting utilizes chiaroscuro not just to direct the audience's gaze, but also to create a deep contrast between the light of Kier and the dark of the 4 tempers. According to lore, the cat o' 9 tails multi-pronged whip that Kier is wielding represents the 9 core principles of Lumen, a concept not unlike the 7 heavenly virtues of Catholicism. He is using this whip to attack embodiments of the 4 tempers: woe, frolic, dread, and malice. The backdrop of the cave, with light pouring through it, is also purposeful. It conjures the image of Plato's cave or the tomb of Christ, and thus places Kier among known symbols of truth and enlightenment. This myth-making is not only reserved for Kier himself. Ordinary Lumen employees are also depicted as ideal types in works such as The Exalted Victory of Cold Harbor, the heroic realism painting we see in Season 2 on the day Mark S. is supposed to finish the Cold Harbor file. Heroic realism is a term used to describe the socialist realism of the Soviet Union, certain fascist art pieces, and even the wartime propaganda used in the US, all of which aim to depict larger-than-life heroes as embodiments of a regime's ideals. According to Maxim Gorky, this art style extracts its basic ideas from reality, then elevates it by adding quote-unquote romanticism with deep revolutionary potential. In The Exalted Victory of Cold Harbor, Mark S. turns into an ideal type of a Lumen employee, with everyone in his inner and outer life on his sides and the Lumen executives watching over him. He appears to be in a transcendental state after having finished the file. This is not the real Mark S., and this is not exactly how things would have played out. But this depiction overtly attempts to propagate and convince the character that completing this final task would turn him into a legend, a hero among Lumen employees. Another characteristic of the Lumen paintings that also takes inspiration from propaganda art is its invention/reinvention of history. During the Season 1 episode, The Grim Barbarity of Optics and Design, we see Lumen invent history as a tool for instilling fear and distrust. 2 paintings, 2 different departments, identical and imagined depictions of mutiny. Both versions meant to dissuade these 2 departments from collaborating. Milchick and Cobell even mentioned later on that showing Irving the OND version was a means of running a 266, presumably some kind of psyop. Conversely, during the Season 2 episode, Who is Alive, we see a reinvention of history when Milchick receives an awful gift from Lumen, recanonized portraits of Kier as a black man. This deeply tokenistic act, which echoes the tokenism of real-world MNCs, understandably leaves him feeling more offended than grateful, and adds to his growing resentment towards Lumen. Visually, one more prominent aspect of these paintings is their uncanny nature. Many, if not all of the Lumen paintings we see are pastiches of older, highly recognizable artists. The aforementioned use of chiaroscuro comes from Caravaggio, the Calamity artworks mirror Goya's violent late-career paintings, and perhaps most blatantly of all, Kier Invites You to Drink of His Water is a total rip-off of Caspar David Friedrich's 1818 painting, Wanderer Above a Sea of Fog. Copying all of these historically significant pieces of art serves a specific purpose. In an excellent Substack article for her Culture Dump series, Dr. Rebecca Marks explains this beautifully. Quote, "The company seems to be crafting a narrative for the workers where their semi-mythical founder, Kier, spans centuries. This, I think, mirrors how authoritarian ideologies borrow from different eras to construct their own mythologies." In Season 2's first episode, before the MDR team is reunited after their attempted uprising, we see a striking work that exemplifies all of the characteristics we have discussed so far. Kier pardons his betrayers, depicts Kier as a benevolent figure, forgiving the MDR rebels. We see Kier brandishing a sword with an army behind him, and the MDR team buried up to their necks in sand. None of what is depicted actually happened. In fact, the forgiveness only occurred after pressure from Mark S. upon his return, a pressure that Lumen only succumbed to because they could not dispose of him before the completion of the Cold Harbor file. The style of the painting is reminiscent of both Soviet art and the early 20th century futurist art movement, with a backdrop populated by brutalist architecture. It's noteworthy that the painting has a vivid red color palette, signifying not just the team's past attempts at a revolution, but perhaps foreshadowing the one that is yet to come. The Lumen paintings that populate the white walls of the severed floor are clearly works of propaganda ultimately grounded in didacticism, meaning that most works aim to instill certain values or teach some sort of a lesson to the innies. On the other hand, the art that the severed employees themselves create seems to be an attempt by their subconscious to help them learn the real truth of their situation. In Jungian psychology, individuation refers to our search for self-actualization. It is the process whereby we understand who we truly fully are. This process requires a synthesis of the subconscious and conscious parts of the mind. The creation of art can be used as a means of individuation, as the artist works to spew forth their subconscious self, allowing their conscious self to analyze and come to terms with it. This spewing forth, or the creative impulse as Jung would call it, derives its psychoanalytical value from the fact that it is more of an innate drive than something intentional or pre-planned. In a way, the process of severance can be seen as a halting of the individuation process. With the conscious self split in two, the severed employees will struggle to self-actualize. In the You Are, we see Mark S. engage in seemingly a form of Jungian art therapy. As the scent of Gemma's candles fill the room, Miss Casey asks him to sculpt something using clay. Mark S., the innie, does not understand why his creative impulses make him form a tree, the symbol of Gemma's presumably fatal car crash. While his subconscious is putting forth this traumatic memory for him to analyze, the severance procedure prevents him from actually being able to do so. While innies are unable to come to terms with the traumatic memories of their outies, the inverse of this is true as well. On several instances, we see Irving's outie, a prolific painter, fill canvas after canvas with identical paintings of the exports hall, something that he has never seen, but his innie is haunted by, as evidenced by the nightmares he has at work in Season 1. Here, his outie self is being presented a traumatic memory by his subconscious, but his individuation is halted as the memory itself only exists for the innie. In any case, while the Lumen art is meant to manufacture narratives, the art created by severed employees aims to bring out repressed truths. Sometimes, however, Severance utilizes a piece of art that goes beyond all of this to comment on the very meaning of what the showrunners are trying to convey. Melting Iceberg 7 by Lisa Lebowski hangs behind Milchick's office in Season 2. In its penultimate episode, The After Hours, when Mark S. calls Milchick to inform him that he would not be able to come to work that day, we see Milchick staring at the painting. The image of this iceberg, with 90% of its mass hidden beneath the surface, foreshadows the fact that we have yet to see Milchick's full transformation as a character. I think in this moment, Milchick is receiving a simple reminder of Severance's ultimate message. Late-stage capitalism forces workers to put in an unrelenting amount of dedication to the corporations that employ them. Corporations that would not hesitate to exploit, deceive, or stab you in the back for their own self-interest. As Mark says, work is just work. Stop checking your emails on a Saturday. Go outside, touch some grass. There's so much more to life. than this. Thanks for watching.